What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me once again to break down yet another NASCAR race, Brian. The season is rocking and rolling. It's Greasy Rules 14. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Kyle? And just like we predicted, we were the reason why Kyle Larson fell back to the pack and
Told you.
finished 16th last week.
Told you.
Only we could put the ultimate.
To be
hex on a
fair,
guy
it
like
was a
that.
speeding penalty in the pits that ended up kind of being the thing that cost him, because he was running well and he was near the front and he was doing the things he needed to do to make us look good. But that's okay. I was a big Kyle Busch supporter last week. Probably should have won. Him and Kurt went back and forth. Obviously, Ross Chastain and that whole situation happened. Kyle Busch is a character. I mean, he's definitely not like, he doesn't hold anything back. He seems kind of upset like constantly. But we did hit both of our best bets. Martin Truex top 5, Ryan Blaney top 5, both at plus money. Truex ended up finishing 3rd. Blaney snuck in, got the 5th spot. So that was a good week for us. DraftKings was a mixed bag. I did okay. Ended up cashing enough to keep the ball rolling this week. So excited about that. But before we dive into the Foxwoods Resort Casino 301, there's some interesting news coming out of NASCAR. Obviously, out of Hendrick, Kyle Larson got that contract extension, which is, I mean, seemingly a no-brainer at this point. Yeah. He's running incredibly well. He's dominating the circuit, and even with a couple uneventful finishes the past month or so, he's been awesome and very, very interesting move and good move by Hendrick to lock him up. The big news today, though, is the
I guess you'd call it departure or
new
so additions.
I don't. Brothers are making some additions and subtractions. They brought on Austin Cindric, which we knew Penske was going to do that. I think the more surprising thing is that Brad Keselowski is the guy going the other way, and Cindric will be taking over for the number 2. Granted, Keselowski is 37. We'll see what his future has, and Harrison Burton is going to be full-time NASCAR next year, replacing our guy Matt DiBenedetto. So I don't know if they've officially said where he's going to end up yet either. So I know we talked about Trackhouse last week. There's an empty spot there. Kurt Busch still wants to race after winning last week. It was kind of making his pitch to the fans at the race, saying, "Hey, if you'll have me back, I'll keep racing." Ryan Newman's like 75 and still out there driving around. So you never know with these older guys, but it will be interesting to see what teams are doing. But reading the article over on NASCAR.com, they're talking about kind of, this is what Hendrick did, back in the day when they brought up Dale Jr. and they brought up Jimmy Johnson and Casey Kane, and they had Jeff Gordon already. So like that whole little, they went from basically being an old group to a young group, and with the young guys like William Byron, like Christopher Bell. I mean, it seems like teams are trying to get younger and have a longer period of dominance. And obviously Cindric's one of those guys that we've known he's been coming. So we're not exactly shocked, but it is interesting to see them make the move with these guys in their 22 and 20 years old respectively, and getting rid of the 30 and 37-year-old.
Yeah. Also in the article too, I think the most important aspect of it is they keep mentioning the implementation of the next gen car, where you have a lot of these older drivers who have been driving the current generation vehicles, for a long time. They're very comfortable in it, and this is going to be a brand new learning experience for them. So these teams probably don't want to invest the kind of time and the learning curve it's going to take for these cars and older drivers, when they could have, a longer period of leeway with these younger guys to help them grow in the car and their sponsorship. Right. So I think that's the move they're making.
For sure. Take the next 2 to 4 years, let these guys, learn the car really well. And all of a sudden, Austin Cindric's 24, 25, Harrison Burton's 22, 23. And now you have 15 years of awesome driver ability. It makes a ton of sense. It's just it's always moves like this that make me feel old, Brian. When guys like Keselowski and
Yep.
is getting phased out, when I see the guys that we watched growing up in the booth talking about the races and how
Yep.
old they are, and it's just kind of interesting. It really reminds you, oh yeah, you're not 20 anymore. You're approaching 40, and it's not the best. But you know what, Brian? That's okay. We can move forward. We can move on, and we'll talk some Foxwoods Casino 301. There's some interesting numbers on the betting board this week, and I'll throw it
Yes.
up here. For the first time, Kyle Larson isn't like a dramatic favorite, so that's really interesting. Um, a lot of the top three numbers are very, very close. I mean, anywhere from Chase Elliott to Denny Hamlin's basically, a little over plus money to barely 2 to 1, and then obviously down from there. Anything initially that's jumping off the board that's garnering your interest that you're thinking, man, that could be something that come Sunday I'm holding a ticket for.
I mean, honestly, you could really take your pick for the guys inside 10 to 1, and even possibly the terrible Joey Logano at 10 to 1. I mean, he's had tremendous amount of success at this track. But I'm looking at a guy like Kyle Busch, who, had he wound up winning last week's race, which is what it was looking like before that, curious debacle with Ross Chastain, I would think that he would probably be closer to the top two guys in terms of maybe being 4.5 or 5 to 1 to win this race. So for me, I'm leaning Kyle Busch if I were in the outright market. But again, with
Mm-hmm.
so many people with similar odds, this will probably be a week too where I look further down the board and go more towards those, T5s, T10s, and DraftKings even implemented more T20s that I'll hit on later. But yeah, this is going to be a really interesting race, especially as we get closer to the playoffs.
Yeah. I think it's one that I'm excited to watch. It'll be interesting to see with guys like Keselowski being kind of phased out with their team.
Yep.
How does that impact them on their track? Are they trying to stick it to their team, saying, "Look, guys, I still have it," and maybe he can jump up and win, or maybe it's like, oh, this season isn't really going to matter much. Obviously, they're trying to secure a ride for next year, so they want to show that they can still run well, but. It is interesting to see him, with such a short line this week, obviously, with the track record. For me, there's a couple names that really garner my interest. First, Martin Truex. He seems to be getting back to his form and running really well, and had a
Yep.
really good race last weekend. I think he's going in the right direction. I think he's going to be a strong contender down the stretch, and would be somebody that I'm willing to get to this week, especially if you can find a good number on him. I know there was some 7-1, 8-1s initial launch. Obviously, these are off of DraftKings as of Thursday. Um, he's down to 5-1. I still don't hate that number. Um, when you look at kind of the career runs at this track, with a guy like Harvick, with a guy like Hamlin, who haven't been running as well as we'd like to see and we were used to seeing, and for an outright ticket, not sure I'll get there on both those guys, but Truex would definitely be worthy of my time. And I still like Kyle Larson. I feel like I'm getting a decent number on him at 5.5 to 1. Feel like he has the goods to run really well, and if we were posting these odds 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, his number would probably be 3 or 4 to 1. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a his number is actually where it should be instead of over inflated. So that's another number I can get to. Beyond there, any of the double digit guys, your boy William Byron's settled down to 15 to 1. Feels like the right spot. Kevin Harvick's a number. Like if you wanna
Nope.
if
Not
you wanna
touching
jump
it.
up and 15 to 1 for a guy who's dominated this track, 2 wins in his last 3 trips here. That is compelling. We saw the old guy win last week, Kurt Busch, at 30 to 1. Definitely a number that if you'd cash that, you'd have been feeling really good about it. Not getting to him this week. Matt D trying to secure a seat, 40 to 1. Maybe that's more of a top 10, top 5 kind of bet,
Yes.
but Yeah, I mean, to me, I really think it's Truex and Larson in terms of outrights.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting looking at these odds because I just checked over at another book that I play on. Kyle Larson right now is sitting at 4-1 over there as the favorite, with Hamlin 5-1, Busch at 5.75 to 1, so kind of near where I would think he'd be at, and Truex is at 6-1. So, I really feel like this particular race, based on the past couple weeks results and the fact that they're not actually like practicing here, is having a big effect on the odds and the odds makers trying to determine who exactly is the favorite. But I mean, if anybody's watched NASCAR this year, that Kyle Larson is clearly the most dominant driver of the 21 season. So if you can get a good number like on DraftKings right now at 5.5 to 1, I think that's the guy that you hit on, and then you look elsewhere for other dudes.
Yeah, I think I'm pulling up the William Hill number. William Hill always seems to give me a good number, but I'm looking at FanDuel right now. Larson is your favorite at 4.5 to 1 with Denny Hamlin. Truex is 5.5. Kyle Busch is 7. Keselowski is 8.5. So
Ooh, look
figure
at
out
those
who you like.
differences.
Figure out what options you actually have, and then go from there, because there is a lot of, like Brian said, a lot of different numbers. Like if you head over to William Hill, Larson is 4.5 to 1, Truex is 5, Keselowski is 650. So pick and choose. Say, who do I like? Where am I at? And then go, okay, what options do I have to actually bet these guys? And shop it around, because you will getting, for placement points, it might be pretty similar. But if you're getting 6 or 7 to 1 instead of 5.5 or 5,
That's big
that's value. And that's something that I could absolutely get on board with.
for sure.
Brian, beyond outrights, when we're talking placement, top fives, top tens, that kind of stuff, anything jumping out to you? Anything? I know DraftKings has top 20s now, which is kind of fun. See if we can find some interesting value in those markets. But where's your head going? What's your mind saying?
Well, you kind of hit on him, and that's Matt DiBenedetto starting 14th this week. His top 10 number right now is plus 115, and I think this is a position where kind of you and I hit on this last year with Eric Jones. Once we found out that he would no longer be driving in the 20 car, we knew that he was going to try to push forward, and I think the first race out of that news, he wound up placing top 10. So I'm looking similar situation here with DiBenedetto, he's shown some good finishing ability over the last two or 3 years here, and
Yeah,
to get plus money for a top 10 for a guy who just lost his ride, he has nothing secured for next season, who has to show something going forward here. I love that, just thinking about the other aspects of this race, not just his skill level or anything like that. So I do think that he'll really push the issue to try to get inside the top 10. And then
if we're looking inside the top 10 market, there's one name that just jumped out to me and might have a good chance at being my best bet this week. I took like a week or two off of this guy, but I couldn't help myself this week. I'm back on him in a big way, and that's Eric Almirola. Top 10 at plus 220. Plus 220 for a top 10.
yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, no,
He's starting 22nd,
it's
so
just hard
he
getting
will have to
with
move
him.
up a little bit. But this is a guy who runs pretty well at this style of track, has had some decent success at this style of track, while his season overall has been a little up and down. I think there's potential, and getting over 2-1 for a top 10, I think is kind of a no-brainer at this point.
Yeah, I just worry about his propensity this season to either outside the top 20, even close to the 30th, or inside the top 10. There's really no in between with Almirola. It's either feast or famine with him. So for me, it's a little difficult to get there. I mean, it is a good number, so it's not something I hate, but it's probably not something I'm leaning. The other one, you'll see it on my DraftKings lineup, but that's Chase Briscoe for a top 20 at even money. I mean,
Yeah.
I know he's a rookie, but he's really successful at these tracks in the Xfinity series. He has no history here in the Cup Series at Loudon, but in terms of similarly distanced tracks at Dover and Phoenix, and then I mean Phoenix being another kind of like it's a little flatter kind of track.
Sure.
He's I think 8 of 9 races inside the top 10, so I just don't see why there's any reason to think that starting 19th, he can't maintain that starting position and finish inside the top 20, especially for even money.
Yeah. And the guy right above him, Chase Briscoe, or not Chase Briscoe, Cole Custer, rather. You just
Yep.
talked about Chase Briscoe. Minus 140 for a top 20.
I like that as well.
Love that. That makes so much sense. 6-1 for a top 10. That's a little more aggressive, but you're also getting over 6 times the payout. So I could find myself gravitating towards there as well. But Custer is going to be somebody that when we talk DraftKings, you'll hear a lot, and that's okay.
Yes.
But I feel like that top 20 number is very, very tempting and something I could definitely find myself gravitating towards. Just checking out the matchups. Anything jump out to you? I'm looking. There's always group betting and whatnot. But we have I'm looking at FanDuel. So Eric Jones, Ryan Newman, basically even money. Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Harvick, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex.
Let me just say, DraftKings really expanded on their matchups, and I think they just expanded on their NASCAR betting altogether because there are a ton.
Yeah, they
of
really
matchups this week. They must have
really
heard
went
the
wild.
fans complaining. But yeah, no, right off the bat, looking at the matchup board here, Kyle Busch versus Brad Keselowski. Kyle Busch minus 115. Give me the guy who's just absolutely crushing the field the last couple of weeks. That's Kyle Busch. Yeah. I'll bet that all day. And then two below that right away, Cole Custer versus Bubba Wallace. I love Bubba Wallace, but Cole Custer is just head over heels better at these kind of tracks.
I'll take Custer against Chris Buescher too. And then the two Almirollas versus Suarez. I know Suarez is our guy. Plus, but the juice is minus 125. Don't love that, but against Suarez, I like that. Against Ross Chastain, I really like that. At basically even money. They went buck wild this week, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think they've seen the amount of people watching and or betting and or playing DraftKings. I know DraftKings contests the last couple of weeks have been filling up really quickly for NASCAR. Yeah. So
and it's also an interesting time, right? Because there's not much going on. Hockey's done, baseball's rolling along, basketball's wrapping up. The Euros are done. The British Open's going on. There's a few things, but
training camp hasn't started yet.
Yeah, so this is a great time to take advantage of NASCAR, and we might get some decent numbers if more people are infiltrating the space. Let's shift over. Let's talk a little DraftKings, Brian. And I'll throw up your core 4 for the week, and just work me through these names.
Well, I mean, Denny Hamlin, 3 of the last 5 races at Loudon in New Hampshire is finished first or second. Yeah. How do you not love that for 10,000?
That's pretty good.
Yeah. His actually worst finish here over the last 8 races. It was a 15th way back in 2015. So him starting 6th, it's got a decent floor. So even if he falls back, it's probably going to be near T10. He's eventually got to win a friggin' race this year too. So that's kind of why I'm picking him. If starting 6th, maybe he gets a few placement points. And then the first guy I actually added to my lineup, Martin Truex Jr., going back to the party this week, 9,100 for the second favorite at this track. That makes 0 sense starting on the front row. I know he's not going to get placement points, but he has the potential. This is a 301 lap race. Yep. What if he leads 150 laps? I mean,
very, very possible based upon history at this track. He could lead half the race.
Well, on that point, he led 83 or more laps in 5 consecutive races prior to the last 2 here. So it's possible of him approaching triple-digit laps led for 9,100. Hell yes. Cole Custer, you hit on him. He's starting 21st. This is a guy, he finished 8th here last season. Since joining the Cup Series in 2018, he's actually finished 11th or better in 5 of the 7 races at Phoenix and Dover, which are both kind of comparable tracks. So this is a kind of track that he excels at. For $6,300, give me that all day. And then the guy I love this week, it'll be on my betting card, T20, Chase Briscoe at 6,000. Let me just say, the last time I bet him, he had a 6th place finish I bet him a top 10. He finished 6th. So I'm going back to the well, and hopefully he does it again.
Yeah. I mean, you could do a top 20 and top 10 and really cash. We'll flip over and look at mine. You'll see a couple names. Martin Truex, 9,100, very much on board. Dominator right off the bat. Big fan of what he can be. Ditto for Cole Custer. We talked about him a few times. Runs well at this track. I think gives you a nice salary savings if you want to get to some of those more expensive guys. I'm going to Kyle Larson. He's most expensive. I don't care. I think he has a very good chance at dominating this race, at winning this race, and racking up a ton of DraftKings points. If you wanted to pivot off him to Kyle Busch, I wouldn't blame you. But then I might, try and pivot off of Truex and find value elsewhere and kind of figure that out. The one price that did jump out to me, Brian, and I feel like I need to play him just because of what his price is, Daniel Suarez at almost $9,000, above Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, right below Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. It feels weird, and I think a lot of people won't get to him, but I think he might be somebody that's worth your time if you're doing a bunch of lineups, and especially if you're shooting for the moon.
Yeah, I find this one extremely curious, especially since he's coming off of 2 consecutive 36th place finishes.
Yeah.
So I wonder sometimes if like DraftKings knows some things that we don't. But that said, Suarez prior to that had, 1, 2, 3 consecutive inside the top 15 and hadn't finished worse than 22nd in the previous 6.
Yeah.
So he's a guy who's shown the ability with Trackhouse, and then now that they've done the purchase of what is that racing? I can't remember the racing team, but
totally blanking.
Anyways,
no. Anyways,
whatever. Everyone knows who we're talking about, but yeah. So ever since they've made that transaction, now Suarez knows he's going to be there. He knows that there's no reason to think that he's going to lose his job. They're going to be putting more money forth towards this team to improve them. So I just think he's going to get more comfortable as this season goes along, and there's a potential of him putting in another string of T20 finishes over this back half of the year.
Yep, and then Almirola is the final person in my core 4, 8,400, a little more than you probably want to spend, but he's starting 22nd. I think he has a legit chance at finishing in the top 10, and that's really good value. I expect him to run really, really well this week and be a person that you're excited about. Now, like Brian said, there's been a lot of feast or famine for him. It's either inside the top 10 or outside the top 20. So, depending on what the rest of your lineup, you're looking for somebody that can maybe pop and kind of put you over the top. Maybe he's somebody there. Maybe if you have a lot of risky guys already, you'll look elsewhere. But I think he could make a lot of sense.
Yeah, he's a guy who could pop, and that's kind of what you're looking for, especially you're trying to go against the grain. And because he has been so up and down with races, maybe there's potential of lower ownership. And oh, and I figured it out. It's Chip Ganassi Racing. So
there we go. Bingo.
CGR. And then
I'm sure people have been yelling at us for the last 10 minutes.
Yes. The one guy I do want to hit on, I always try to find this super value guy that I'll have at the back end of a lot of my rosters. Justin Haley. Sure. I think I had him once or twice earlier this season. He's starting 30th this week. In 3 consecutive races this year, he's finished 29th or better. So you're looking at least one spot of placement points, and he's had double-digit DK points in 3 straight races. I know that's not a lot, but you're just hoping that if you're front loading your roster with high price guys that your back end can just not get you negative, or if they can get into the double digits, that's just, sprinkles on top of your frosting. So
Yep. And last week was interesting. Obviously, if you're not joining us, we go live every Sunday right before the race, during do a little pre-show, help you build some final lineups, that kind of stuff. The Ryan Newman chalk was very much everybody was on board last week. I think he was
yep.
almost 50% in the big GPP, which is not good. And of course, when everybody's on board is the one when he wrecks out and has a terrible week. My boy Pasta Man, though, the Alfredo
Yep.
Sauce King, 22 fantasy points, started 32nd, finished 26th. For a guy that cost
And
you,
that's exactly what I'm looking for.
yeah, when you're below 6K, that's all you need. That helps you build some powerhouse lineups and doesn't crush you. So it was nice to see him come home for me a little bit. It's actually for being Thursday, and I don't usually build any sort of lineups this early. I'm figuring out my core, figuring out guys I might mix in, but I don't usually build this stuff until Saturday or Sunday, really. But I'm feeling pretty strong about it. So this is either going to be an awesome week or an absolutely terrible week, and my guess is it's probably going to be the latter, because as soon as I get that extra bit of confidence is when the DFS gods smack me in the face a little bit and remind me where I'm at. But I'm kind of digging some of these names, and I'm going to be able to build some nice lineups, and I think I might have to add in a little Chase Briscoe just to keep things going, because when you liked him last time, it worked out really well. So we'll see if it comes to fruition this time.
Yeah, and I don't want to throw any more water on the flames already of us thinking we're going to burn out, but in one of the lineups I had built for this, I also have Kyle Larson to go along with Truex and Cole Custer. So,
We're
I
so
mean,
close. We're dead in the
that's just,
water. We should just not play this
yeah.
week.
I just wanted to let you know. So when Kyle Larson again finishes
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah, and shouts to Ricky Stenhouse. I don't know with these guys sometimes. I feel like I get on board and it goes horribly wrong. All right, Brian, we talked DFS, we talked some betting. We got to give the people the last bit. What's your best bet for
oh
the
lordy.
Foxwoods Casino Resort 301?
Man, this one's really hard as seen by the top of the board here, but I'm going back. I'm partying with Marty once again. I'm going Martin Truex top 3 plus 140. I'm riding the old man here to hopefully 2 consecutive victories.
Ginky. Man, I'm gonna be a little wonky. I like Eric Almirola this week, and I think what I say, top was it top? It was top 10 at plus 220, right? Or was it top 20?
Yeah, top 10.
Top 10. I like that, but I'm gonna take Eric Almirola versus Ross Chastain, even money.
Oh, I like that.
I think there's value there, and even if he finishes 17 or whatever, I think he can. I think he can beat Ross Chastain, and I think that even money is not a good line. So I will take Almirola. Putting down the odds right now. So, and then so that those are our best bets. Martin Truex top 3, which I'm 100% on board with, and I'm going to be looking at the outrights as well. And then Eric Almirola versus Ross Chastain. I think that's a good number. I think there's value there, and Brian and I should be around Sunday morning, so make sure you hit that subscribe feature. Make sure you turn on the bell notifications so when we go live, it's usually around 11:30 West Coast time, so 2:30, something like that. But if you subscribe, turn on the bell notifications, you should get a notification when we go live. We talk about any line movement, update your DFS stuff, answer any questions you may have. So bring your questions, come hang out, and get ready for the race with us. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.